Well, welcome back. It's Wednesday, at least for me, which means it is time for the MCU rankings list to continues. Last week we went from the 28th down to the 20th spot. Today we're going to be going from 19 down to 11. So the next week and the week after we'll break it up into two parts to go through my top 10 and then my top 5. But you know, last week I think I ended with um, Iron Man 3 in my number 20 spot. So let's just get out here out of the way. If you like these things, if you like these lists, if you like these rankings, movie reviews, stuff like that, leave a like, give a subscription. I keep putting out this content weekly, and I'm excited to see where this goes and to keep making more lists and see what I get after Marvel. But without ado, let's start with my number 19 overall, which is my first Avengers movie on my list, The Age of Ultron. I think that over time, this movie has slowly moved up and up and up, partly because I feel like they really built up the characters of Wanda and Vision very, very well. Um, and I think the visions that Tony gets in the middle of the movie pays off a lot better with the Endgame movie near the end. But I'm a huge James Spader fan. I love Boston Legal. I do like the introduction of Wanda here. The Hulk and Natasha storyline didn't work all that much, but we really saw a different way the Avengers could be tested, and we saw the conflict arise from Tony and Cap, and what at that time their different approaches to saving the world. But I love the teasing of Thor's hammer. I love how they used it as a prop to show Vision was good. Um, Overall, Age of Ultron, I just remember it having some excellent action sequences. It really started evolving the Infinity Stones and moving towards a big plot with that. Obviously, we got another Thanos teaser at the end of it where he says, "I'll do it myself." Um, and I think it's one of those times where we start seeing Thor bring out more of his comedic self, which I think is very nice. But um, again, I do think it has some flaws. I think the Ultron bots become kind of faceless. We don't get too much in depth into the what Ultron could be like we saw with What If. Um, but it's overall a pretty enjoyable movie. And like I said, as time goes on, the character moments you're given in this movie, I think, build very well down in future movies at the moment. So Age of Ultron was probably in my 20 rankings just a couple years ago. But like I said, over time it's really moved up and it found its spot number 19 for me. So interested to see if I do this list again in 5 years, if this moves up any higher, if it stays at 19, if it falls back with more movies coming out. We'll see. But that's Age of Ultron for me. Number 18 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp and Ant-Man movies. They're kind of nice, small, grounded comedy style movies, heisty in some ways. I think, uh, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer was underutilized here, but that's about it. But um, it's a solid cast: Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd, um, Evangeline Lilly. Just a very strong core three there. The villains weren't too memorable, but was still very enjoyable. Paul Rudd is just a charismatic guy. He can make any movie he's in just very watchable and great. Uh, I did like him testing the limits with Ant Man more, going obviously more microscopic. We got more of the quantum realm. I can't wait for Quantum Mania to come out and understanding more about what that realm's about. I think it was a perfect movie leading into Avengers Endgame. I think we saw really good action and really good character beats out of Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp. Michael Douglas had some nice little comedic moments. Again, the villain wasn't too great in this, but he wasn't really meant to be. It was all a Paul Rudd show, and I think Paul Rudd throughout was just so enjoyable from when he's on house arrest to when he is becoming Giant Man in this movie, and coming out of the water. Ant Man and the Wasp is just an enjoyable ride. Um, I think it's moved down for me on my list as I've gone on. So like this is one where I could see Ultron passing it up over time. But I have it number here at number 18. Let's go look at what I have at number 17. Black Panther. This is going to be probably one of my most controversial rankings for some people. It's moved up a little bit over the years. but I was never the biggest fan of Black Panther as some other people have it. I can admit there has amazing acting. I think Michael B. Jordan acts his butt off as Killmonger. I think Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman, does an amazing job as King T'Challa in Black Panther. Letitia Wright as Shuri. Andy Serkis is great in this movie. Um, Same thing with Martin Freeman. My main issue was the storyline. They bring up Wakanda, and you see a lot as this great advanced nation, of so much beauty in it. The people are beautiful. The art is beautiful. The land is beautiful. The respect for one another is beautiful in a lot of ways. But what I could never get behind in this movie is how they are, even though they're as advanced and well being as they are, they're one, a monarchy, and two, the monarchy is decided by a trial by combat. Um, that's a way to get horrible leaders, as we see in this movie with Michael B. Jordan. I think that for as advanced and as well thought this the civilization was, especially for science and situations like that, having their leader be somebody who is made through trial by combat was just something that I couldn't buy into, and it's such a big part of the story that it really left me wanting more, and it left me feeling saddened by Wakanda. I felt I was like, you kind of took what could have been this beautiful advanced nation and showing African beauty, but trivialized it with um, very barbaric ways to pick leaders. That you're kind of saying that that area of the world can't move on to more modern ways of selecting and having their leaders. That they're still doing it as the old tribal way. And I'm not trying to, that might come off the wrong way, but it wasn't something that I particularly enjoyed, and it did take me out of this movie quite a bit, and it really brought it down for me. I also think it had some pretty bad CGI towards the end. I think the Killmonger Black Panther fight had some very weak moments in terms of CGI, but Killmonger really raises this movie up to be very, very high. And like I said, it's moving up more and more as I go. Cause I do love the people here. I love the Dora Milaje. I love Shuri. I love Chadwick Boseman's character. But and I love Sterling K. Brown. I think he was the uh, I think he was the one who played M'Baku. I just, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the trial by combat for the leadership, but I think once I move past that, I do see in the bad CGI, I do see this movie as being a pretty well overall. Excellent score, again, excellent scenery and CGI and Wakanda, the land itself. Just some of the fight sequences weren't very well done, and the very bland, like, oh, this guy who wants to massacre the world will listen to him because he won a hand-to-hand combat fight. I feel like really just marginalized and diminished the societal greatness that Wakanda was supposed to be having. And maybe that was part of the movie per se, but nobody sees it like that. Which, like I said, I've gotten into some arguments with some friends and like about that part, and they're saying, "Well, that's the culture." I'm like, I don't. That's part of the culture that causes issues over time. But it's neither here or there. That's my number 17 movie. Probably the most controversial rating on this list today. A lot of people have this in their top 10, top 5, one of their favorite movies. It made a bunch of money in the box office. It's great also to see so much representation in the movie. I'm all about that. But yeah, let's move on to my number 16, Captain America: The First Avenger. This is another one that continues to move up over time. I used to think of it kind of similar to the Thor movies, but that Peggy and Steve kind of relationship was so good, and Steve truly was very similar, as Captain America, very pure in this movie, and him kind of, Chris Evans really is able to come into this very stoic role. This could have been very bland style role, and really humanized him and made you connect with him and made you root for him so well. So this over time has gotten higher and higher, and I've become the more and more enjoy Captain America's movies overall, and the character as a whole. And I think the first Avenger exemplifies that so much. Obviously, the post credit scene is amazing, but I still get I kind of get more emotional now when he tells Peggy that he won't be there for the dance, because know that there's more history afterwards. This is a movie that was able to get better after everything after it came out. Um, and it's just, again, it's a very, very, very solid movie. It's one that when I watch it now, I get excited to watch it in my Marvel watch along, my Marvel watch throughs. And I think it's just I think it's also a cool period piece for World War II. Not too much, but kind of showing how important bonds and stuff were, and how important it was to get people to feel positive back at home. But what a way to build this character out. Somebody that you never thought would work perfectly. They found a way to do it, and I give Marvel all the credit, because I think Iron Man started it, but if Captain America didn't work as well as it did, none of this stuff would have ever been made, really. But this movie was so good. Chris Evans was I hit back there. Whoops. Chris Evans was such perfect casting, and you see it in this movie so much. It's number 16 for me. Now let's look at number 15 overall. Spider-Man Far From Home. I really enjoyed Jake Gyllenhaal in this as Mysterio, and I do like that twist midway through. I do think I love the Mysterio powers and how they transferred that into him using Stark drones, to you know make people see things, think they're seeing things that they don't, using visual effects that way. Um, Peter wanting to get closer to MJ in this movie worked really well, and this was the first time I feel Zendaya really got to be a main lead front with MJ, and she knocked it out of the park too. Equally being able to be an equal to Tom Holland's Peter Parker throughout, and have that really great chemistry and connection. Obviously, it's easy to have decent chemistry when you start dating each other, but they had it really well in the film. Like I said, Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I loved most of this movie how they presented him and his argument. I really loved the sequence where Peter finds him in the warehouse, but Peter thinks that he's actually going to talk with Nick Fury to um, a UN building or something like that, and it's really just Mysterio messing with him. I wish we got more sequences like that. I do think the third act gets a little bit bloated down with a little bit over the topness, trying to make an Avengers level event for Mysterio. I would have loved to have it more of him, not knowing where he's at in that type of a world. But I do love that the Peter tingle, the spider sense became a big factor in this, and how it really showed him maturing into his power kit. Uh, Probably the third ranked one, obviously, for the Spider-Man movies for me, but still very enjoyable, very good. I love going back and rewatching this one. Number 14, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Um, this is my favorite of the ones that have came out in the last year or so. I really loved Simone Liu as Shang-Chi here. Aquafina was great as her character. Tony Leone was amazing as the Mandarin. This had really fun fight sequences. It had a really rich story. You really understood who the Mandarin was and why he was the way it was. Razor Fist was a good character. Michelle Yeoh was a great character coming in, being Shang-Chi's aunt. Um, and seeing the power of the Ten Rings and the mystical realm, so good. The kung fu action in this was great throughout. I think the CGI did have a couple issues, maybe when it comes to the realm that they journeyed into to see where her mother came from. Um, but man, this movie, I would actually got emotional when the Mandarin had his fate decided. And the connection he made with his son, and you understood kind of that there was still family meanings there, and even though he was a cold and heartless, a cold and mean father to some, that he really did care about Shang Chi, his son, and wanted the best for him. And I think it got a little bit tropey. I think Aquafina's character, it kind of did a little bit of tropey. I loved her comedic sense. I love her chemistry with Shang Chi, and I can't wait to see more. This is a character I can't wait to see what else he does. I do think Simone Liu was the perfect casting for this, and these 10 rings were so interesting and powerful. And his sister, and the cliffhanger it leaves out there again. I can't wait to see what else more comes from that. This was a very surprisingly great movie, and is one of the best solo ones to come out. That I really connected to, and I think it's going to be one when we look back. I think it's going to be getting better and better, like the Captain America First Avenger. ShangChi came out and had a great debut, and he clearly is going to be an Avenger down the line with these 10 rings. So I can't wait to see what's going to come from that and everything there. Next up, AntMan. I love the first AntMan. Evangeline Lilly, Paul Rudd, Corey Stoll's underrated as the villain in here. Michael Douglas, Michael Pena shines out throughout. This was huge. Everybody was making a joke. How can AntMan work? How can this silly concept work? Yeah, they got away with it from Guardians of the Galaxy, but can they really make a superhero about being an ant work? And they did. They did it so well. They made it so powerful and made you understand his power so well. Paul Rudd is so charming and comedic and timing that you bought into him as a character and where he came from. His interaction with the Falcon at the Avengers compound was so great and so funny. Michael Pena and his storytelling hit so well. I bought a little bit into the villain a whole lot more than the first Ant-Man movie, and what they were fighting for. I think that it's unfortunate that it became one of those like you fight the copy of yourself, and I think that holds it back from being a top 10 for me. But Ant-Man is one of those movies that I just love watching as a heist movie. I love watching Paul Rudd be this way. They make this character seem so small that you thought would be not that much of an important character as an outside Marvel fan, and you realize very quickly why he will be important in his power set. So when he does meet up with the Avengers, it all makes sense and it all works very well. They hit gold with Paul Rudd as Ant Man. Paul Rudd as his character uh, was perfect casting. And I think that's all I have to say about Ant Man. Amazingly solidly funny movie, nice tight heist to it, nicely tight plot. Like I said, it only has like I like Corey Stoll a bit as a villain. I just don't like the fact that they made him into just a copy of Ant Man, which ends up being most of Marvel's villains, and that he did die in the end. I would have loved it more if Corey Stoll's character stayed around and he was the villain in Ant Man and the Wasp too. But that's not how Marvel makes a lot of their movies. But number 12, Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie was the confirmation that the Spider-Man was going to work perfectly in this world. I think that Tom Holland came out and played an amazing Peter Parker in a way that you believed he was a high schooler with how he acted, and not just how he looked, but how he acted and how he felt. Tony Stark having a very minor but important role in teaching Peter what it means to be a hero and stuff like that. Um, John Favreau is so hilarious with with Aunt May and their relationship and his relationship with Peter. Michael Keaton as the Vulture was such a great villain, and nothing was more intense than that ride to Homecoming with Peter and his date, and finding out his date's father is the Vulture that he's been hunting, and Vulture finding it out in that car ride. Such a subtle, a great term, but it's just subtle, smart conversation that allows you to see the connection that these people have, and make you feel tense for Peter, make you worry for Peter because he doesn't have a suit there. He is very vulnerable. Um, and it's just a tense, very well done scene. The Vulture outfit works very well with the CGI, so much better than what we saw in Morbius's post-credit scenes. There's so many decent scenes here. Him having the push up, all the rubble that's fallen on him, him trying to save the fairy, um, just Peter doing trying to do the everyday Spider-Man stuff, and him choosing to at the end, him choosing to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man when Tony and Pepper clearly were planning on him to join the Avengers again, was hilariously funny and great. I love Spider-Man Homecoming. They were able to give us a solid character and wrap everything up here pretty much perfectly in the first movie, and give us that jaw-dropping scene where we wonder, we see Michael Keaton's Vulture figure out who Spider-Man is and who his identity is. And that leaves us with one movie that is Doctor Strange. This movie is I love Benedict Cumberbatch and just about anything he does. Tilda Swinton was great as the Ancient One. Chiwetel Ejiofor was great as Mordo. Obviously, Benedict Wong is always amazing as Wong. The Beyonce references. Rachel McAdams was okay as her character. Mads Mikkelsen was an okay villain. Dormammu and how they handled him at the end was the cherry on top for Marvel villains, and was probably one of the best solo movies that handled a villain in my eyes. But Cumberbatch was able to make Strange be arrogant but also respectable, annoying but also courageous, um, stubborn but also extremely intelligent. And we saw the transformation of his character in this movie so well, and we saw him become a much better human being in this movie so well. Stephen Strange is one that I wasn't sure how they were going to do it. I'm not a big comic book fan. I don't read the comics per se. But this movie, the visuals were amazing. How they handled the dark dimension with Dormammu was amazing. Feeling like the movie had real stakes and different feel in a different realm. What different style of Marvel movie was great. Again, the cast was really strong around him. Um, I really liked this first Doctor Strange movie a lot. I'm saddened that we didn't get a great second Doctor Strange movie, but he was so good in the other movies that he's been in with the Avengers that I think he's in a perfect position going forward. Um, I just love the way the Dormammu and the time loop and how he used his brain to save his world, and save everyone. And the power of the time stone was really, Guardians of the Galaxy, and I guess Avengers Infinity War, but Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange were really the only two times we got to see an individual stone used in such a powerful way by somebody. Um, and it was so nice to kind of see that and to be told that at the end of it. And it just was a great overall movie. You understood who Doctor Strange was, and you wanted to see more of him moving forward. And Benedict Cumberbatch was the perfect casting for that overall. I can't imagine anybody else being Stephen Strange at this point. So, but that's where we're at. This is my top list so far. We have all the way from 11 to 28. Obviously, you see things like Thor Dark World, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Captain Marvel, Eternals, Iron Man 3 being 20 and below. Next up is Ultron, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Black Panther, Captain America First Avenger. If you see anything on this list that you disagree with, leave a comment down below. If you agree with me on some things, leave a comment down below. Next week, we're going to be doing 10 through 6. And the week after, we'll finish it up with the top 5 overall Marvel movies. And then, hey, start putting comments down below for what you want my next list to be. We'll see what's coming out at that point, but who knows? Maybe it'll be Jurassic Park movies. Maybe it'll be Tom Cruise movies. Go ahead and put a comment down below what you want to see my next list to be. But until then, check my other reviews out for movies like Top Gun that just came out this week, Top Gun Maverick. I'll have a Downtown Abbey movie review out tomorrow. I'll be seeing Bob's Burgers and Men this weekend. Stranger Things comes out. I'll probably try to pop a review of part 1 in there too. Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out as well. But yeah, leave a comment down below if you have any opinions. Leave a like if you like the video. Subscribe if you want more content like this. But until then, I hope you have an excellent day, evening, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.